Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. The Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga are hinting that the conflict is close to being resolved and Kuminga will re-sign with the Warriors. Restricted free agent Golden State Warriors power forward Jonathan Kuminga might agree to a surprisingly low contract with the club in 2025-26. The 6'8" champ, still just 22, is in the midst of fraught negotiations about a possible next deal with the only NBA franchise he's ever known. Kuminga has until October 1 to use a major mechanism. That deadline could be his biggest remaining leverage in the ongoing talks. What's next for the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga? That date represents the last moment Kuminga can pick up his qualifying offer for 2025-26. Per a fresh report, that might be exactly what Kuminga decides to do. Dalton Johnson of NBC Sports Bay Area reports that, with the two sides still very far apart when it comes to his next salary, Kuminga would prefer to just opt for his qualifying offer season so that he can reach unrestricted free agency and control his own destiny as soon as possible. The one-year, $7.9 million qualifying offer remains the most attractive offer to Kuminga at the moment, sources continue to tell NBC Sports Bay Area. Johnson writes. The Warriors have offered a two-year contract worth roughly $45 million, but are holding strong to a team option for the second year, while Kuminga and his camp have made it clear they want a player option for year two. Per Johnson, Kuminga would net $21.75 million for 2025-26 in the Warriors' proposed next agreement. It appears that neither side much wants to stay in business with the other. Golden State would of course prefer that Beasley agrees to a lucrative new contract so that his money can be traded either now or by next February's deadline, and the club can bring in win-now assets. Kuminga isn't such a distressed asset, however. The number 7 pick in the 2021 draft, he has emerged as a dynamic downhill scorer, and although his long-range shooting is somewhat erratic, the athletic wing still clearly has upside. Across just 47 games last year, Kuminga averaged 15.3 points on .454/.305/.668 shooting splits, 4.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists and 0.8 steals per. He's certainly worth more than that qualifying offer, and if the Warriors don't appreciate his ceiling, someone else certainly will. Jonathan Kuminga preparing to sign new contract, bad news for Warriors. On Thursday, restricted free agent guard Cam Thomas signed a $6 million qualifying offer to stay with the Brooklyn Nets for the 2025-26 season. Now, many fans are wondering which NBA player will be next. Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, and Quentin Grimes all sit in similar situations with their respective teams, looking to negotiate a new contract, while the tempting qualifying offer sits on the table. The Golden State Warriors have been having trouble finding an agreement with Kuminga, and the 22-year-old forward continues to consider taking his one-year, $7.9 million qualifying offer. The Warriors and Kuminga are still reportedly far apart on their contract negotiations, but the free agent forward is ready to be done with this situation. Clutch Point's Brett Siegel reported on Thursday that Kuminga is preparing to sign the qualifying offer, as he simply wants to end these talks unless the Warriors change their offer. There haven't been any indications suggesting that the Warriors are thinking of changing their offer, and unless they do so over the course of the next week, Kuminga is prepared to end talks and accept his qualifying offer, league sources said, Siegel wrote. At the end of the day, Kuminga wants to feel valued, and the Warriors haven't given him ample reasons to want to stay. Of course, if Kuminga were able to leave on his own terms this offseason, he would have already found a new home, but he is stuck in this situation with the Warriors. The best way out for him, while keeping some power in the situation, is to sign the qualifying offer and enter unrestricted free agency next offseason. Bad news for the Warriors? Of course, Kuminga could simply be using this to get a better offer out of the Warriors, but many reports suggest he is content with taking the qualifying offer. The Warriors went into the offseason with a sign-and-trade in mind, as they wanted to part with Kuminga while getting something in return, but no trade offer was enticing enough for them. Now, the Warriors are at risk of losing Kuminga for literally nothing next offseason, unless they cough up a better contract offer for him. Neither the Kuminga nor the Warriors should want him to sign the qualifying offer, but it is his last piece of leverage to hold over the franchise in order to receive a better deal. The Warriors' reported current offer for Kuminga is $45 million over 2 years with a team option, but Kuminga is not willing to take that. This entire situation could certainly spell bad news for the Warriors. Warriors urged to sweeten Jonathan Kuminga's 2-year offer to avoid roster freeze. The Golden State Warriors are in the middle of a contract situation with Jonathan Kuminga. There are 2 offers in place for the 22-year-old. Either he can take a $7.9 million qualifying offer, which expires on October 1st and becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2026, or he can sign the 2-year, $45 million offer, with a team option for 2026 to 27. The standoff with Kuminga is costing the Warriors big time. They remain the only team that still have pending transactions. This, in turn, has resulted in a roster freeze, and things could worsen if both parties can't find a middle ground. San Francisco Chronicle's Sam Gordon suggested the Warriors sweeten their existing 2-year offer. Kuminga's camp doesn't like the team option for the 2nd year. In order to resolve this, the Warriors could adjust this deal by converting that team option into a player option. A 2-year deal with a player option, instead of a team option, would allow the partnership to stay short-term, like the standing proposal, and give Kuminga agency in a prospective mid-season trade with his right to become a free agent next summer, Gordon wrote. How Warriors benefit by doing this favor to Jonathan Kuminga. This revised term respects Jonathan Kuminga's autonomy over his future. Kuminga secures guaranteed earnings and flexibility, while the Warriors avoid locking him into a long-term cap hit. If this finalizes, the Warriors can proceed confidently with training camp and off-season roster moves rather than being paralyzed by the unresolved standoff. Even at a mental level, Kuminga will be motivated to do better next season so that he can prove his worth to the team, opt out and sign a long-term deal he has always wanted. Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler are not getting any younger, so their championship window is also closing. Having someone of Kuminga's potential will only help the team that has too many veterans. Jonathan Kuminga's solution will be painful for the Warriors. They could need to give him more just to get this thing resolved. As the Golden State Warriors get closer and closer to training camp at the end of this month, the apparent lack of movement on any sort of negotiations with restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga is becoming increasingly worrying. Not only has their standoff prevented them from signing any major free agents this offseason, but, now, NBA analyst Zach Lowe has predicted that it will take a 2-year, $48 million deal to even get Kuminga back in the door. While this figure is still far below the $30 million annual value that Kuminga was seeking at the beginning of the offseason, even a small pay raise for the young forward could have disastrous effects on the rest of the team's roster construction. A larger deal for Kuminga could be the only solution. As the season approaches, the Warriors' situation is becoming more and more desperate as they attempt to furnish a supporting cast for their established veteran trio. According to Lowe, this urgency could ultimately force Golden State into acquiescing somewhat to Kuminga's demands. I'll bet you they finally meet in the middle after what has been a very contentious relationship. I think you just guarantee the 2nd year, and it's like 2 years, $48 million. I think that's a deal that could be palatable to everybody. While, throughout the offseason, the Warriors have held firm to their offer of 2 years, $45 million with a team option after the first year, Kuminga's camp has been hesitant to accept such a deal as a result of his reluctance to be used primarily as a trade chip next season. As Lowe argues, guaranteeing the 2nd year of the deal could negate this hesitancy, allowing both sides to re-enter an uneasy partnership for the time being. Yet, this presents one major problem on Golden State's side, a tightening of their already strict financial limitations. As it stands, the Warriors have roughly $25 million to spend until they hit the first apron and 6 open roster spots to fill. While an extra $1.5 million for Kuminga is certainly not an exorbitant amount, it will put further chokeholds on the quality of free agents they can sign after the deal is negotiated, including perhaps complicating their negotiations with veteran center Al Horford. Moreover, guaranteeing the second year of the deal could put Golden State in even more of a bind. If the market remains cold on Kuminga, the Warriors could be stuck paying him $24 million in 2026-27 as they attempt to make one final push for a championship with all three of their stars under contract. While it is ultimately the organization's own fault that things have gotten to this point, Lowe's prediction indeed signals trouble for the Warriors if they are ultimately required to adjust their offer to Kuminga. Superstar forward holds the key to Warriors trading for Trey Murphy 3. What will Zion serve up next season? The Golden State Warriors might have expressed trade interest in Trey Murphy 3 this summer, but the chances of a deal with the New Orleans Pelicans will likely be dictated by another player, Zion Williamson. The former number 1 overall pick is still the key to unlocking which direction the Pelicans ultimately want to go, whether they're determined to get back to the playoffs, or whether they understand the need for a rebuild. Zion Williamson could dictate a Trey Murphy 3 trade to the Warriors. New Orleans may have already headed towards a rebuild had Williamson held value in the trade market, yet right now no team is giving up value for someone who's played more than 30 games just twice in 6 seasons. That could change quickly if Williamson bursts out of the blocks next season, though that might just as easily convince the Pelicans to keep the explosive forward. Staff at ESPN recently voted and declared that Williamson would be the next superstar to request a trade from their current team, but that doesn't help New Orleans if fitness and injury concerns continue to persist. Perhaps the most interesting part of this is Williamson's contract. He's got $42.20 and $44.9 million remaining on his deal over the next 2 years, yet they're both non-guaranteed and are tied to specific measures in relation to games played and his weight at various points of the season. For a team who has never paid the luxury tax, Williamson's contract is going to mean a lot for what happens elsewhere on the New Orleans roster. If it becomes obvious that the 25-year-old's contract will become guaranteed, then their hopes of shedding salary while acquiring real value may lay in Murphy, who is about to start a 4-year, $112 million extension. There's also the complicated element of the Pelicans having relinquished their 2026 first-round pick, eliminating their ability to tank next season and reducing their desire to make a trade that would reduce their competitiveness. So, what exactly do the Warriors need from Williamson in order for the Pelicans to consider the possibility of trading Murphy? Ideally, a situation where Williamson hits his contract triggers, yet doesn't play well enough to catapult New Orleans up the standings or his own value to a point where a rival team is willing to surrender serious assets to acquire him. That might leave the Pelicans stuck in a big enough hole to consider something drastic, which is just what trading Murphy to the Warriors would be given his stature as a rising star of the league at just 25 years old.